Hello everyone, welcome, I'm Robert, and today I want to discuss Lord of the Rings Fate of the Fellowship. So this is a game that is based on the Pandemic system. So first I want to give you some background on my experience with Pandemic. So I have played the original game in app form, and I also have played physically the Hot Zone series, which I've enjoyed, and also Wrath of the Lich King, the Pandemic version of that game, which I've also quite enjoyed. Now, as far as how much I played this Lord of the Rings game, I played 5 games in total using the included solo rules. And the first game was using the suggested settings for your first game. Then I played 3 games in standard difficulty, completely randomized with random objectives and heroes. And then for my 5th game, I increased the difficulty of the deck and also objectives to heroic. And that is that game I lost, so I lost that last game, and also my very first game I lost while I was getting the ropes of the system. I lost, so I won my 3 completely randomized games and lost my first and last games. Alright, so now let's get into what I liked about the game. So first thing I have to point out is just how incredibly thematic this game is and how well it ties into the IP. It really is just mind-blowing how well the Pandemic system has been molded to accommodate for the Lord of the Rings story, and how it creates this system that through the objectives and the characters, it can recreate the events from the movies. And it's just really, really impressive how it pulls that off. And on that note, this is just a great story generator that can create some tense, fun moments, and also create some alternative what-if scenarios with how the events of the movies could have carried out, but completing objectives with different characters or things happening out of order. So it's really interesting how it plays and messes with the timeline through the way that objectives and random character setup works. So another thing I really like about this game is how easy to digest the rules are. Compared to how big the experience feels and how much fun the puzzle is, I just think it's really cool how fast it was to learn. You're going to be learning this in no time, maybe an hour tops. What's going to take the most time, which I'll mention later, I'll get a bit more into this later, is familiarizing yourself with the map. So that can be a bit of an obstacle at the beginning, but as far as actually learning the mechanics of the game, it is very easy to digest, and just the rulebook was just a pleasure to read. The game has also great art and components, and I really love that the majority of the characters and soldiers are represented in meeples rather than miniatures. So components and presentation, they feel amazing. I like the tower, and the map looks cool. Great character art. I do have a bit of a ding against the game because of the Nazgûl miniatures, which I'll bring up later though. I also love how cool and distinct the character feels and how many different objectives there are. Every time that you get a different lineup of characters through random setup, it really is gonna make you approach the game differently and try to use their powers to the best of your ability to win the game. And I found the game to just be plain fun. It is just fun, and it just has the right level of challenge even at the standard difficulty. And it has so many ways of you adjusting the difficulty, and also different scenarios that ask you to use specific characters and or objectives. But yeah, I just like the level of challenge that it offers. It's just right. It really does reward planning in advance and familiarizing yourself with the characters and how to best complete objectives. And one of the coolest attributes of the game that I really appreciate is how much it feels like a war game, and other people have pointed it out too in other reviews that I've seen. It really has a nice war-gamey feel to it. Now, I have not played War of the Ring myself, but I know that that's a revered, very famous game, and I've heard some people make comparisons between this and War of the Ring, basically positing that it's like a War of the Ring light that is soloable. And I love that about it because, of course, by now, if War of the Ring had I know that there's fan-made solo modes to it, but I think it's just such a large-scale game with so many variables. I don't know how much I would enjoy a solo version of that. even as well made as it might be. But I just love that this gives you like a pseudo, at least, I'm taking other people's word for it, but I love that apparently this gives you a pseudo War of the Ring experience light that is soloable. So I just love that about this game. So next I have to mention how great of a setup to experience ratio this offers. So the first time that you set up the game by getting it out of the shelf and setting up the board and all that, it might take you like 20 minutes. But once you have all of your components arranged, resetting for the next game takes like less than 10 minutes. And every time you set up, it gives you like a nice 1.5 to 2 hour experience that is enjoyable from beginning to end. So I really like that balance that it offers of setup versus experience. And not to mention, like I already mentioned earlier, actually, the learning experience is just a delight. And I don't believe that this is gonna be too difficult to remember if I pull this game out again months from now. So just impressive accessibility, I suppose, of learning the rules and setting it up. Just delightful. And as far as the pandemic angle, this game feels so different, and I made sure of this by going back to Hot Zone because I don't have the physical version of the original Pandemic. So the closest thing to that is the Hot Zone game. So I played a couple games of Hot Zone back to back with this just to make like a closer comparison, and folks, it really could not feel any more different. Okay, so this really stands on its own, and it like you can see obviously if you've played Pandemic, like the DNA of it, if you will, but yeah, it's different enough that if you don't like Pandemic, like don't skip this game just because you don't like Pandemic is what I'm saying. So really make sure that you consider giving this game a chance, even if you've had poor experiences with Pandemic in the past or you don't care for Pandemic, which honestly I don't care that much for it. The most enjoyable experience I've had is with the Wrath of the Lich King version of it. But yeah, even that, just make sure that you don't let this go under your radar because you might have any preconceptions about Pandemic. And finally, I want to mention that the solo rules that are included with the game are just very easy to learn and make sense, and I just enjoyed it. So rather than having you play two-handed, which I know some people prefer, I have never played Pandemic, any variation of Pandemic multi-handed. I use the solo rules that are included or that are printed separately. I always do that, and here they make sense. They're great. They're still a great puzzle. You have to, plan in advance and sequence your characters' abilities and turns properly. So yeah, you have to synergize it. It does bend the rules in a couple places to accommodate for it, but I think it works out really well. So yeah, the solo rules here are easy to learn and make sense to me, and I just enjoyed the experience. And while it bends the rules in a couple places, I don't think, I can't compare it to multiplayer because I haven't played it multiplayer, but I think that it just works really well, and I don't think it compromises in any way compared to the multiplayer experience as far as the puzzle goes. All right, now I want to point out a couple things that I have against the game. All right, so I have to point this out. The very first game that I played of this, unironically, not even joking, I actually got a headache because the map is just such, it's not that it's badly designed per se, but it is a bit of an information overload. And the first time it might take you a bit to parse how everything connects because it's just very visually busy. It's a lot of information. Now, this was not an issue by the second game, okay? I'm just giving you a heads up. Unironically, I got a headache the first time that I played it. Not cool, but yeah, the board is just very busy. It's just the way it is, just the nature of the game. But I think they did as good of a job as they could have possibly done with trying to design the board, visually, right? But still, it's extremely busy, and there's going to be tons of pieces everywhere. And at the beginning, seeing how all of the different areas connect and learning how the troops, the way that troops move, the enemy troops move and all that, it's going to take a bit to get through that. So it's not the rules. This is not the fault of the rulebook. Rulebook's great. It's just when you're just trying to visualize that and apply those rules in the map, yeah, the map is going to be a bit of an obstacle at the beginning. Okay, and I brought up earlier that I was going to talk about the Nazgûl Minis. And honestly, I don't like the Nazgûl Minis. Now, they have a nice board presence, which I appreciate, but I wish that they offered like token versions of them because they keep they just are fiddly to manipulate. They kept toppling over. Their wings have like this tendency to hang. Like the Nazgûl miniatures will like stick together. Like I try to lift one and then another one gets lifted because like the wings stick together because of like their hook shapes. So I disliked manipulating the Nazgûl miniatures. Just that simple. If I've thought of like 3D printing, like just circular tokens with like a Nazgûl silhouette or something. As soon as someone makes something like that, or like an alternative Nazgûl wood token that I can make, I'll do it, and I'll just ditch and just keep them in the box every time I play the game because I did not like manipulating the Nazgûl miniatures. So yeah. All right, and on the component notes, again, I have to bring up that the poker, quote-unquote poker-sized cards that this game includes are a bit wider, actually much wider than most games that I've played. So I actually had a hard time finding sleeves that would fit this. I'll show you at the end what sleeves I ended up using. Like I don't know why the cards are so much wider than in other games. So they're just supposed to be standard size playing cards, but don't know what happened there. All right, and finally, a very minor note on luck. There might be some times where, due to the luck of the draw, some symbols that you really need at certain times might be stuck somewhere in the deck. This wasn't a major issue, but it might feel bad at times. I mean, I did win more than I lost with my games. Again, I think the challenge is right, but this is just a minor thing that might bother you. Yeah, the way that the deck works here, sometimes you might just have to wait and wait and wait for the right symbol to come up so that you can complete certain objectives. And there's also a luck of the draw with characters. If you don't draw a character that lets you obtain more symbol tokens or lets you filter or recourse symbol cards that you need, if you don't have any character that does that in your lineup, you might be strapped for getting the icons that you need to complete your objectives. So this might be an issue in some games and it might feel bad, but just a heads up, might happen to you, might feel bad depending on the character lineup that you get and the luck of the draw. All right, folks, so in conclusion, I think that this is a game that everyone should try, especially if you like the Lord of the Rings. This game is just a masterclass example of how an IP can be thematically represented in board game form. It's just incredible how the pandemic system was molded to create this experience. And even if you don't like Lord of the Rings, this game just offers a compelling experience that stands on its own. But again, if you are a Lord of the Rings fan, that's just the cherry on top. You know, do yourself a favor and try this game. I think the hype is real and I agree with it. Even if it's not a game that I might play like 20, 30, 100 times, I think this is a game that everybody should experience, okay? So treat yourself to this game at some point. This is just some Game of the Year material, seriously. It's just really, really good. And little note, this is the only other Lord of the Rings game in my collection aside from Lord of the Rings LCG, and I think both can live happily because they're just so different. I know that there's like dozens of Lord of the Rings games, and I love Lord of the Rings LCG so much that I've never felt the need, but this is just so different that I couldn't help myself. This game can justify a place in my collection because it's so different from Lord of the Rings LCG, and it offers something that Lord of the Rings LCG doesn't. So yeah, this will live happily in my collection, and when I'm feeling Lord of the Ringsy, I'll definitely be pulling this and putting some Lord of the Rings music and enjoying the experience. And now I want to show you how I organized the game and sleeved it. Alright everyone, so I want to bring up a few enhancements that I made to the game. So first, I like tracking my actions in all games where you have multiple actions. I never like having to memorize off the top of my head how many actions I've used per turn. So I picked up these tokens from Lord of the Rings LCG, so I can track my 4 actions, and I just use this Middle-earth box to do that. And then you have the extra Frodo or Sam action that you can do at the start or at the end of your 4 actions. Okay. Then I've also seen this in the forum. Some people did it, and I suggest you do too. Just use a little Sharpie there for the front-facing edges of the tower. I think that it is, it's a nice touch. It'll take you some time though, because it's a lot of them. But yeah, I think it's worth it. I liked sharpening that right there. And I also want to show you how I stored these. What I did here was, in order for this to fit back in the box, these are pill containers, and I had to, so there's a smaller one, but there's something that I do for certain games when coming up with certain storage solutions. I cut the pill container so that I can divide it how I need to in order for them to fit the box. So I have this smaller pill container for the 4 types of tokens here, and I had to cut a section of them so that I was, so that I don't have like that weight with the rest of the tokens there, okay, with the day of the week slots. And then this 7-day pill container, one of the I just use an X-Acto knife and some scissors to cut one of the sections, so now I have these 2. Okay, and I am going to show you a picture, and this is a little plastic container, but I am going to show you a picture of how this all fits in the box. Okay, when you sleeve these bigger cards and you put these pill containers on top, it fits perfectly flush. All right. It all worked out really well. The height of these pill boxes, these are from a store, from a dollar store, and I used a bit of nail polish remover to get rid of the day of the week letters, just using a little towel. And I have a short video where I show you how to do that. Oh, and for the tower, there was a bit of wobbling with the tower, which it was driving me nuts. So I just added a little piece of foam here at the bottom with a little strip of friction tape, which helped stabilize it and keep in place. And finally, I want to comment on the sleeves because I ran into something that I've never really run into with a game. These supposedly poker-sized cards, they're really wide, and I tried like 5-6 different types of sleeves, even more, I think, almost 10 different types of sleeves, and they wouldn't fit. Like, they would have like this warped look to it, and like it would be really tight in most premium sleeves. So the only sleeve that I was able to use that fit them comfortably is just penny sleeves. That's it, and that's what I suggest you use. And I do try to use penny sleeves for most games. That's like the most economic way to sleeve if you really need to sleeve a game. But I wanted maybe like sleeve kings because it's like slightly thicker. That's like the sweet spot for me. It's sleeve kings. But yeah, I couldn't use sleeve kings because it would be like this inside of the sleeve. So penny sleeves from Ultra Pro, they fit perfect. So these are the sleeves that I suggest. These cards, they fit on a sleeve king size, which I'll put on screen, no problem. But yeah, these I highly suggest you just use penny sleeves. They were perfect. All right, and that's it. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any comments, questions, feedback, go ahead and put them in the comment section. And if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.